Future Now Show. Brought to you by the Club of Amsterdam.
Welcome to the Future Now Show, where we dive into the minds of visionaries shaping our tomorrow. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Kris Krüg. He is an influential artist, a futurist, photographer, and community builder who's pushing the boundaries of what's possible at the intersection of creativity and artificial intelligence. Kris, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so great having you. Kris, so you described yourself as a tech artist and cyberpunk anti-hero from the future. So can you share what these terms mean to you and how they tie into your work with AI?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll be fully forthcoming. I've been using that moniker for like almost 20 years now, and it was my first ever Twitter bio back in 2006. And I was mostly kind of being playful slash maybe aspirational. I think it actually says tech artist, QuasiSage, cyberpunk anti-hero from the future. And I think it spoke to my like inability at the time to put myself into traditional boxes or whatever and stuff. And I'm hanging out right at the intersection of emerging technology and creativity, which I boiled into kind of tech artist, which makes a lot of sense to a lot of people who are making images with code or doing different kind of creative aspects with technology. And I don't know, the QuasiSage part, I guess, just speaks. I studied philosophy in college, and I'm definitely interested in like the deeper issues and the why and the are we becoming and some of those types of things. My first foray into online publishing was in 1998. I started a journal called Spark, and the moniker was Exploring Electronic Consciousness. And so, just since the late 90s, I've been interested in like how these technologies are changing the world around us and ourselves and our relationships to each other and stuff like that. So I don't know, that's where it came from. And it was playful and fun, and it somehow stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of your work online lately, and it's really cool. I love the branding and everything, as a futurist. There's not enough really cool futurists out there, doing their thing, and I really appreciate seeing what you're up to.
Thanks.
It,
I mean, y'all left a big old wide lane for me to hang out in because everyone's so focused on, emerging markets and the economy and investment and this, that, and the other thing. And, one of the real revolutions that's going on with all this AI stuff right now is how it empowers our personal productivity, but as creative individuals in the world. I'm not just talking about like, crunching more spreadsheets, but our real ability to be more creative. And so, yeah, that's the area I'm exploring. I started that company, Future Proof Creatives, and I've been doing these trainings and workshops and meetups for essentially professional creatives, from designers to filmmakers, even like marketing strategists and coders. My definition is pretty broad as to like anyone who, as their primary function or work, makes things out of themselves into the world. I consider those people creative, and it's a real interesting time for us. So that's who I'm speaking to.
Speaking of creativity, how do you see AI as a collaborator in creative fields, especially with your photography and digital artwork?
Yeah, sure. Well, I appreciate that you even frame it as a collaborator, because in some ways that represents that you have an intermediate or advanced understanding of how to interact with this shit to begin with, really, because so many people still to this day, at the very beginning of it, let's call it the generative AI revolution, you heard a lot of people talking about, well, AI is just a tool and it just depends on how you use the tool, and garbage in, garbage out, that kind of thinking and mentality. My relationship with it, I feel like, has evolved to something much more like an assistant or a collaborator. My interactions with AIs look a lot more like conversations than they do like question and answer time, where I'm like, what's the right answer to this, or what's the optimal way to do this? I'm sitting there saying, my primary way of interacting with AI is by recording my voice into my phone, transcribing it, and sending those things into bots I've already built or something, essentially. And so, yeah, that's, oh, I got a little derailed. This is going to get to be your first edit. Where are we going?
Well, yeah, just talking about collaboration with AI and how it's being embedded into everything that you're doing. I mean, here's the thing too. AI being incorporated into your workflows, that's really important because there's all these platforms out there now, right? And people just don't know how they can maximize their work, by using these various programs, right? And you can use ChatGPT, right? And you can either use Dolly to make images, or you can write a book or, short story, whatever, right? But if you don't know what each platform is best for or which ones you should invest in, that's really important, because who wants to have a million subscriptions to all these different platforms, especially if you don't know how to get the most out of it, right?
Absolutely. I think that you're speaking to the heart of the matter in some ways. I just recently gave a AI for filmmakers workshop at like the oldest film festival in the world in Canada here. And also a lot of my customers or students or clients come to me with this skeptical attitude. They like sign up for the workshop or they sign up for this event and they're like, I know AI is changing filmmaking, but I'm skeptical that it could do a better job, or whatever. And a lot of times the first thing I say to people is like, hey, there's not a big green button that's like make film. That's not what we're talking about here. You're not at risk of, someone without your skills going and pressing the big green button, films coming out the other side. Instead, let's take a feature film and let's break it into all the steps that it takes to make a feature film. You come up with the idea, you come up with a name, you brainstorm some characters, you do some character and plot development, you turn it into a script, you break that script into different scripts for the people who are building the sets and the people who are reading the lines, and then you plan your production, you do your production, and then you do all the post-production and marketing and sales of the tickets. It's like once you break a film down into those 25 steps, it becomes pretty clear that AI can help almost every single step of the way. We're not talking about a big green button that makes films for us. We're talking about improving our overall productivity, creativity, and filmmaking power by understanding our workflows, as you say, and then bringing correct tools to bear at each step of the way.
Yeah, so I want to talk about your workshops, right? Because I know you've been really deeply involved with your AI workshops, and you're doing topics like prompt engineering and how you approach developing an AI mindset,
Yeah.
right? What does it developing an AI mindset mean to you, and how do you convey that to your attendees?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for asking. I haven't really gotten a chance to share the inside baseball on some of this stuff publicly or whatever, right? I'm doing two main things right now. I'm doing these AI mindset workshops and I'm doing these creative toolkit workshops. I tend to think of the AI mindset one as the one I'd like to get people into first, but they're different and both very approachable. So the AI mindset one is a little bit more philosophical. It talks about like how do we upgrade everything about our skills and our identities and all this stuff again here in the face of new emerging technology, while not really losing who we are and understanding truly like who we are. We're about to enter an age of rapid technological innovation where this is not going to be the last time we get told keep up or get left behind, figure out AI or someone else is going to do it. This is not going to be the last time we've heard that. We've heard it a couple. I'm 47 years old. I had a couple epochs of technology in my career. This is maybe the third time everyone's been told, yo, upgrade now or you're going to get left behind. I think that that's going to keep happening at an ever increasingly rate. They say within a year or a year and a half, most of the AI research that's going to be done out there is going to be done by AI researchers, not
Right?
humans, right? At this point, we hit the inflection point and new shit starts coming out all the time. Also, like the AIs that we use right now were made by humans for humans. The AIs that come out in the future might be AIs made for humans by AIs or AIs made for AIs by AIs, And so we got a lot of learning to do at a fast rate coming up. And so I'm trying to help people start to wrap their heads around kind of like, what does this all mean? And then I go into this section where I say, yo, you think you know what AI is. You think it's used for this one thing, but look how people are using it today. And I did this survey and I got this chart, and it shows like in tech support, content creation, education, mental health. It shows all these different use cases across the board, right? And then I do a demo in each one of those kind of 6 sections. So in the first one, I've built like a chat bot that I call on the phone that does photography, tip line or whatever. So it's my voice through 11 labs. It's ChatGPT on the back end, and it's this tool called Vappy. So I got a number, you can call it up, and it's like, hey, this is Kris. Thanks for coming to the photo workshop today. What kind of questions do you got? So that's like the first demo, kind of blows people's minds because most people are just used to using like GPT, something like that, or some sort of Perplexity or Grammarly. The idea that they could set up a phone that talks to a intelligence that's skinned in their voice and have that all happen in an hour for $10 or something is pretty mind blowing, right? And then I go into like a you were talking about digital twinning earlier. I did a language translation experiment right at the beginning of my 11 labs. And then I brought that into the Hey Gen avatar thing. So I essentially have this cool 10-minute YouTube video that's like, hey, I'm Kris, and don't freak out, but I'm about to reach you a bunch of different languages. Then I do the, Chinese, Russian, kind of thing, show people me, not me, speaking whatever they want in all these different languages. Anyway, and then I have a mental health coaching bot that I built where I talk to my phone and tell it my dreams and fears and to-do list in the morning, and it analyzes it from 12 different experts that I've created and stuff like that. So I start with this philosophical, where the fuck are we going? Then I show people, well, here's how people are using it right now today in ways that you maybe don't know about. And then I get into a little bit of a hard skills and soft skills kind of section. It's like, yo, I'm not going to teach you how to do prompting here today. I'm going to teach you about the types of skills I think you should cultivate. And in the hard skills, that's things like compositing, like the ability to take things out of Midjourney, bring them into Photoshop, grab things out of Ideogram, bring those in there and start to layer things together in a way that's not necessarily perceptibly AI anymore, where you're using your human creativity, discretion, and ability to distill messages for all, like really bring your human element to bear by sampling different bits out of AIs and bringing them into finished products. And then I have some soft skills that are, I try to encourage, and those things like, flexibility and curiosity, but also like creating persistent collaborative learning environments. So that's like what my Discord is. And I know, and your Discord's awesome too. These are not just marketing tools or ego boosts. These are ways for me to go deep down a rabbit hole on an AI thing, share it with 1,000 other people who are interested, and they're doing the same thing. They're going down their own rabbit holes and sharing stuff back with me. It's like in this era of, if you believe me that we're going to start getting bombarded with increasingly new epochs of significant technological change, you better have a posse of other creative badasses that you're on a learning journey together with, so you can lift each other up. So that's the kind of stuff I talk about in the AI mindset one. And then the creative toolbox one is essentially, yo, here's my best in class tool in the top 20 categories. So I'm like, Midjourney is the best way to make images. Let me log into my Midjourney, show you under the hood of how I do it for 10 minutes. Yo, 11 Labs is the best way to make voices. Let me log you into mine, and here's the 10 voices I made. So it's a real like smorgasbord buffet. A lot of people don't want to parse tools or figure out, is DALL-E the right thing for me or is Midjourney the right thing for me. They just want someone who knows to tell them what to do, so that when they're like, okay, PowerPoint. Oh, okay, Kris says to use this tool to make slide presentations or whatever. So that's the other one. It's a creative toolkit, and yeah, they walk away with exposure to 12 to 20 cutting edge AI tools that I'm personally using, and from the view of like logged in from my side.
Now, isn't it true that so many people are starting to call themselves a futurist now, all of a sudden? And right, and it's one thing to say I'm a futurist because I think about the future, but it's a whole other thing to actually live it, you know? And it sounds to me like, everything that you're doing, whether it be incorporating into your creative workshops or, even doing your photography, you're bringing all this together. So you're bringing the future into all the work that you're doing, and also you're living it too. That's so important, isn't it?
I mean, I would love to turn this question around on you in some ways, because like I followed your journey as well, and you stepped very early into claiming the name Miss Metaverse more than a decade ago, stepping into your identity as a futurist and stuff. And while my focus has always been on these areas, it took me for example, it took me a long time to call myself an artist, to fully believe and know and emerge, to say to the most important people in a room, I'm an artist. It took me a good long time to be able to embody that. And so I'm curious about your embodiment of the word futurism and your take on some of the changes that you're asking me about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's part of our duty as a futurist, not just to do the work, right? As far as academically or, just churning out papers or whatever, we have to actually live it. We have to be a part of it. We have to be an example of what we want to see in the world, right? be as you wish to see in the world. And what does that mean? I mean, for me personally, I started out as a huge techno optimist. I was super naive. I was like, yeah, the future is awesome. And I actually had a channel called Awesome Future TV. Everything was just so bubbly and so optimistic about everything, total techno optimist. And, as Rob Scoble calls himself, a technology evangelist, right? I
Mhm.
started out with that mindset, but over time, I actually ended up becoming more of a dystopian futurist, which is really interesting because, that's the cyberpunk mentality is that, there's all these dreams of this brighter future, but the reality of it is that we have these elements in our society where we have a technorati, we have a developing elite class of people, and then we have the rest of humanity. So how are we going to bring this together? How are corporations involved? How are we going to make sure that there's certain levels of equality and opportunity for people in the future moving forward? And I feel like, as Miss Metaverse, it wasn't about VR and just being ahead of, talking about these things, but it's actually, helping people realize is that we have a choice between two futures. We can have that brighter future. It's going to take a lot of work, but it seems like we're heading towards more of a dystopian future, and what does that mean? So,
Oh, it's a very interesting analysis, and I'd say I harbor opinions on both sides of that. And I actually maybe think it's a little less black and white. I think it is probably going to be some parts of both. There's going to be some things that resemble utopian and some things that resemble dystopian. I also like to tell people, yo, it's not determined. It depends on how we choose to interact with these tools. Like now is the time to start having these conversations. Like what things in our lives do we want AI to do and what things do we not want it to do? What parts
mhm.
of our humanity are important for us to keep and retain and preserve and celebrate? And what other things are important to offload or whatever, or to collaborate with and stuff. Um, I think that is very possible that this will be very empowering for individuals, and that some of my bigger concerns are for us collectively. I think I actually, I have a paradoxical, conflicting mix of views on some of this stuff. I trend towards being a bit of an anti-capitalist at times, and I am very critical of a lot of things about kind of mainstream culture and society. And yet I live in it, and I participate in it, and I create it. And walking that line is a real important one. And I think that, listen, I think that us intentionally, collectively as a society, finding places where we can talk about this stuff and develop our vocabulary for it and understand the true change, because there's a lot of hype. And I don't just mean positive pro hype. There's a lot of like doomsdayers. There's a lot of people who barely understand this kind of stuff trying to weigh in. And that's fair enough because it affects us all. This isn't stuff that just affects futurists or just affects technologists. It's changing the way we learn and the way laws are made, and the way we interact with our families and our own memories and selves and stuff like that. Like, it's a trip. My computers know more about me than I could ever possibly know about myself. That's weird.
It is weird. Especially with all these AI platforms, the more you use it, the more it's getting to know you. And it's becoming a mirror. It's mirroring back to you things that
Yeah.
you don't even realize. Yep.
Well, I mean, Eric Schmidt was talking a few days ago at that Stanford talk that got deleted off the internet about 10 million token context windows coming in the next year and a half, or whatever. And so at the point at which we have that, it changes everything, because you don't need to fine tune models in the same way that people are fine tuning them now. You can fine tune them in situ, in conversation. It's like, here's these 10 books I'm supposed to read, find overlapping themes between them. Or the the world's your oyster. There's no real limit, right? And so that's really going to blow things up, and it's going to change how we interact with them completely, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So what advice would you give to artists and technologists that are looking to embrace AI without losing the human element in their work?
That's cool. It's funny you asked that. Haven't I just been sitting here and giving a nonstop stream of advice?
Yes.
Um, well, like, okay, let's start with the idea that this ain't the last change that you're going to go through, right? We're going to go through lots of them. And so if you don't look at it as like a final thing, but a progression, this growth journey is like, so when you're going to start your growth journey, let's start it, you know? And and being curious about this stuff. And so maybe instead of, you know, a lot of people are like, they put a prompt into GPT, they get a shitty result back, and they're like, haha, just like I suspected. My job is safe and I will continue to be fine. You know, and that's not a very curious attitude, right? It's my favorite thing to do is to sit down in front of a new AI that I've never met and play the internal game. What do I need to prompt this thing with to get back the types of answers that I'm interested in? I'm going to reference that Eric Schmidt talk the other night ago. He was talking about an alignment problem, and he talked about one I never thought of. He's like, how do we get AI? If an AI's learned something and it's bad, and we don't know what it's learned, what questions can we ask it to tell us what it knows that it shouldn't know? And that's a fascinating one right there, right? Is like, we don't know what these things know. How can we ask the right questions such that they reveal to us the things that they do know? And so just really, I envision it many times as a toddler or a baby computer or a computer with a blank brain that I'm imprinting myself upon or whatever. I think about it that way. And curiosity, I think, would really get people a long ways. Creating these growth circles, just, you know, networks of other people who are interested in the same things and you have a similar perspective. Um, low hanging fruit, very specific piece of advice would be, yo, if you're about to engage in AI, you're about to drown yourself in a bunch of amazing rad content. Maybe you should set up some structures for organizing that information and being able to apply intelligence to them. And I'm talking about things like Obsidian or Notion. I love my Notion. I'm super proud of it. I work on it every day and show it with people. I use it for all sorts of different things. Almost every meeting or conversation that I have that gets recorded gets run through my transcriptions and wisdom extraction bots and dropped off as Notion pages where I can then query my own brain. Essentially, I can query, I can write a query at the end of the week, like write me a report about all the shit that I did this week. And it just goes and it looks in my Notion at all my files that have been transcribed and all the things I've done. And it does a way better job of summarizing my week's worth of activities or something like that, or making next week's stuff. So, you know, find find a space that you feel comfortable starting to put all your stuff into. And right, like a lot of us are talking about training. I've trained a model on my own photography, a model that's never seen anything else in the whole wide world, never seen a human face. I've trained it on 20 years of my portraiture. To do that, you know, you have to start collecting your portraits, pulling them together into a spot, curating a data set and cleaning up a data set. So this place like a Notion or an Obsidian is a place for you to grab transcriptions of every talk you've made, exports of your LinkedIn data, your blog posts, all your content, bring it all together into one spot, such then different things can be done to it. It can be queried, interrogated, analyzed, shared, etc. So yeah, something like that as well.
All right, here's the big question. Where do you see AI going in a decade from now? How is it going to change compared to where we're at today?
Are you familiar with the name Leopold Aschenbrenner? He's that
Sounds
young
familiar.
kid that left OpenAI maybe 2 months ago at the same time Ilya Sutskever left. He
Yeah,
published, do you know what I'm talking about now?
yeah,
Handsome, blonde, 20-year-old, super AI nerd.
yeah, I've heard of them.
All right. Well, his, you know, premise was along the lines of like, very quickly AI is going to be so powerful that governments realize it's essentially like private companies developing nuclear bombs.
Yes, yes, yep,
Yeah,
I
he's
know
like this.
exactly. Yeah.
He's like, this is the Manhattan Project, you guys. This is big, big stuff, you know. And right now, we're all just doing it in our garages, and it won't be very long before three-letter agencies inside the US and different people inside China start to nationalize. And even Los Alamos just did a major conversion. Los Alamos Labs in New Mexico, USA, that developed the nuclear weapons is now a future-focused AI lab. And there's that guy from the NSA who just left the NSA. He retired, a four-star general just retired from the NSA to join the OpenAI board. These guys don't retire. Edward Snowden popped up that day, put his face on the internet and said, well, this represents the capture of OpenAI by the federal US government.
Mhm.
So Okay, 10 years is a long time to look. You should have asked me. You would have got a rosier picture if you asked me. We'll look into the next 12 to 18 months, but I think it's going to change quite a bit. I think it's going to be unrecognizable from what it is right now. I think it's mostly going to be in the hands of governments and stuff. I mean, here I am referencing that Eric Schmidt talk again, but he's a liberal lefty who just spent a whole bunch of time doing US DoD drone AI wargaming and developing of offensive measures to protect the future or whatever, right? I think that uh, it's going to be a lot different and it has the potential to be kind of scary.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. Well, you've been involved in many exciting projects like the BP oil spill and National Geographic.
I didn't spill the
Watch.
oil.
No, 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 it was not you. Confirmed, yes. And also you have your podcast, Motley Krug, which is a freaking awesome name.
Thank you.
You know, so what drives you to keep exploring these new frontiers, beyond just AI? What else is out there? What else is exciting to you regarding the future?
Um, well, I told you I've been publishing online since the 90s. And so I've had this really cool crew of people that are intellectually interested in where we're all going and stuff. And so this community of people mixed with my own kind of interests and passions keep me just like ripping the face off everything new that I can get my hands on. I am genuinely interested in these technologies. I've been reading sci-fi, since I was a child, and I'm very interested in where this is all going. And I want to be a part of it, and I want to tinker. I've been able to develop a career as an independent creative professional. I am able to do my own artistic practice and my own research, as well as like consult for various clients from like government to corporations and nonprofits, whatever. And so I'm often playing this role where people are like, hey, I heard there's something new happening out there. Can you tell us what's happening in our space in particular? So like I just got to go, I wrapped up a big AI project for Wikimedia and Wikipedia right now. They are doing a future visioning project at their executive level. They're trying to figure out where Wikipedia should go from here. A lot has changed for them since they launched, and a lot of their futures aren't rosy. There's people slurping all the stuff out of Wikipedia and putting it into AIs, and there's a lot of different challenges they're facing. And so they wanted to go away on like an executive leadership retreat, and they wanted to make some decisions about big picture strategic directions for the future of Wikimedia. And so they brainstormed with me leading up to it about these 5 different futures, and I was able to develop them whole visual worlds around future scenarios. If they didn't change these things or did change these things and 5 more years played out, this is what the Wikipedia world might look like in those scenarios or something. And so that was a fascinating project, in that I was doing visual brainstorming and like the artistic side of future casting, sort of, but then it was getting used back at an executive boardroom retreat level to determine future of Wikimedia and like empowering true decision making. And what a fascinating exercise. I would have needed like literally a Disney-sized team of concept artists to produce the deliverables that I produced for them all by myself. And I wrote a case study about that I can share with you later. But I'm just constantly interested in what's coming out, how it can be used in ways that are different or unexpected or unintended. I guess that was what I was saying about the independent creative professional thing, is like a lot of people are locked into certain worldviews or frames because of their jobs or corporations or lives or whatever. Whereas I have cultivated, I teach a little bit, I get paid to do some research, some consulting, I got my own artistic practices. And so I'm free to follow intellectual interests and passions and curiosities as they come up, and then report back to the rest of the world.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, Kris, what's next for you? How do you plan to continue pushing the boundaries of AI and creativity in all of your future projects?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I just have done this partnership with the Meta Creation Lab for Creative AI at Simon Fraser University here in British Columbia. So my company, Future Proof Creatives, is a partner with the Meta Creation Lab, and we're beginning to do. We built this like visual neural synthesizer. It essentially allows you to train AI models on only your own work, and we're just starting now with a few artists, getting them to create data sets and train these models. And then what it allows us to do is to walk through the latent space of the computer. We don't prompt it to get visuals out once we've trained it. It's got this visualizer with a whole bunch of different knobs and dials. And so I can essentially, it's a 512 dimension vector database that these things are all written into. And I can visually walk through that database using these tools and see the infinite permutations of faces that have been made from my portraiture. I don't know exactly where we're going with it, but I've never seen anything like that before. So I'm experimenting with training models on artists' own data. I'm also part of a Squamish Nation canoe family here on the West Coast. It's a local First Nation that I'm close with, and there's a couple artists there that have wanted to explore some of their own traditional artistic and cultural styles, both visual stuff, but also language and stuff inside AI. But they've got a lot of questions about maintaining autonomy and oh, what do you call it exactly? Like, I hope you edit this part a little bit. Gosh, damn it. I'm working with a local First Nation, Squamish First Nation here, developing AI systems trained on their language and on their own visual arts. And this is something they've been very interested in, but kind of like reluctant to just stick a whole bunch of cultural knowledge into ChatGPT that they've guarded for their whole lives. And I don't necessarily mean guarded like in the traditional way, but I mean, these are oral cultures. For them, a lot of times traditions, stories and stuff are about being embodied inside of a human on the land where that is their territory, right? And so some people think that AI is colonialism and colonialization, but even more powerful and faster, where other people are like, I would like to experiment with some of these tools to do preservation and revitalization of culture. So that's one of the things I'm really interested in right now. I'm applying for a bunch of grants from the Canada Arts Council and stuff in conjunction with the Squamish Nation and the Meta Creation Lab. I'm really into that. I got workshops and trainings coming up every single month. They're always scheduled for the last Wednesday and Thursday of every month. I'm doing that. Those are really exciting. And yeah, I got a few things up my sleeve.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to see what's next. All right. So thank you so much, Kris, for coming on today and sharing your insights and experiences with us.
I
It's
feel so
clear.
lucky. You guys, Felix has had a real who's who of futurists on this show over the years. And, I've been connecting with you on Discord and that's been great, but it's nice to see your face and chat. And yeah, I would love to just stay a part of these conversations as you guys are having them.
Awesome. All right. Well, where can we find more of your work? What's your website and where do we go to your Discord?
Yeah, I guess you'll have to go to my website, which is Kris Krüg. You spell my name KrisKrug. My website is kriskrug.co. I think that's the best place to track me down. KrisKrug. I'm out there everywhere on all sorts of channels. You'll find me, but that's a great nexus for the podcast and for the YouTubes. And yeah, you can find my Discord there. If you watch this and you track me down, say hi somewhere, let me know that you found me that way. And yeah, I really, really appreciate the support.
All right, great. Well, thanks again for coming on, and we'll have you back on in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you. Later, Felix.